All right. All right. We're recording now. Riza Arnone, thank you for coming on with me.
My pleasure.
It's we were supposed to be live, but it didn't work out live. So we had some technical issues. Too bad I didn't have a managed service provider around. So, and you're technical, so it was just just one of those things. Not like it's not like you can't figure out how to do this stuff. You worked in an IT department. You ran an IT department.
I did.
In a company. You actually in a kind of company that actually had an internal IT department, but outsourced some to our audience, managed service providers.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I come to this from that background. And so it's kind of humbling when you're like, oh my gosh, I know this should be working, but
Yeah.
why isn't it? But
and it's just sometimes, it's technology. I mean, we use BeLiveTV.tv to go live to Facebook, and it works. It should work right out of the box. But when it does have a hiccup or it doesn't like something on someone's computer, it doesn't give you a lot of options to fix it. So yeah, what do? We pivot. We do what we do, right? Like when things hit us and we can't, you can't, this is what everybody's facing today. Something hit us, a wall hit us, and you know what? Instead, we're going to record it here on Zoom. I'll put this up on YouTube and Facebook, and people can enjoy it from there. And
well, let's give them something to enjoy then.
Yeah. So the reason I brought Riza on today, so Riza is in my area. She's in Connecticut here, and she is a life coach. She runs a company called Life on Life Coaching, and she helps people grow. She helps people, with all sorts of things. And I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit so I don't get it wrong. But the reason I brought her on here today is because if you don't have your mind right, if your mindset isn't there as a professional, as a person, everything else falls apart. Right? You can force yourself to go to work and do what you got to do every day. But if you've got this weight on your shoulders and you're just depressed and anxiety ridden, it's going to slow you down. It's going to wait and step on the creativity. So I think having you on is probably one of the more important things I can do right now. So why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself to everybody, and we'll get started.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mike. Thank you for having me on your I guess it's a Zoom or Facebook.
Right. It's my show.
Your show.
My show. It's my late night talk show. Or whenever anybody's watching.
In the middle of the afternoon, right?
Exactly.
So so I am a personal and professional coach, right? And so what I typically do is I help people around setting goals, creating a vision, and keeping them accountable to achieve those goals. And something like this happens, and guess what? It changes all our lives, and all the things that I sat down, at the end of last year and the beginning of this year to plan for 2020, whoop, they're all gone because now I have to pivot and do something different because the need that my clients are presenting is no longer, the dreamy, I want to be better at. It's like more like, how do I survive? How do I get through this thing that is something we've never seen before, and what I'm seeing mostly is that, people are reacting in fear, right? There's so much fear of the unknown. There's fear of survival. I mean, literally from a health perspective and from a financial perspective, it's hitting a lot of people in their pocketbooks and their livelihood. And it is frightening, right? But I think that we have way more control in these situations than we think. And so what I'd like to do is just sort of go through some of the things that we can do to take over that fear, to control it, right? We can't control that we're locked down. We can't control that we can't go back into our, life as usual existence, but we can control how we respond, and we can control what we do with this time that we have on our hands right now. So that's sort of where I would like to start off. And, there's a couple of really tangible things. I'm not going to go woo-woo on you and say, oh, meditate and do this and do that, which yes, all those things are really helpful and they're really good. But the first thing that we can do is we can change our perspective on the situation. What we're having right now is not an economic pattern, right? This is something that was triggered by a health crisis. So when you look at it, and this is what all the experts are saying, is that when this is over, we will resume, the economy will resume to the robust stage that we had seen. And it might take a little bit of time, but it's not like 2008. If you remember that, you know, it's a blip, a big blip, and I don't want to minimize it, but it is a blip, and we will see jobs coming back. We will see people needing services. We will be selling things again. So once that virus flattens, we will return to a growth economy. So that is something that is really helpful when you're looking at this. So don't get defeated by this, get determined, right? Get determined to change your perspective and your outlook and to focus on things, right? So turn off the media, turn off all the people that are predicting doom and gloom. Look for people that you can listen to that are going to be a beacon during this time. Look at business leaders that are constantly out there giving, really positive messages on outlook and on what you can be doing at this time. So change your perspective. That would be, thing number one that I would say. The second thing is, and I'm a big promoter of, when I'm anxious, take action. So when I'm anxious, the last thing I want to do is just sit there, roll on my back like a turtle and, wave my feet. I want to get active as an antidote to the anxiety. So get organized. This is a time. It's time. It's a gift. I mean, how often are we, like, all year long, every day, we don't have time for this. We don't have time to spend with our families. We don't have time to read that book that we know is going to help us be a better leader or a better technologist or a better individual, right? We don't have time. Like, that's the thing that we're all wanting. And here we have time, because even for those of us that are working, it's a different rhythm than it's been. It's not as, unless you're a doctor or that front line, it's not as chaotic as what we've experienced, right? So this is a really great time to recalibrate. So get organized, in your home, get organized in your office, those files and those folders and those to-do lists that you have not been able to get to. When you start tackling some of those things, you're going to feel like you have control, and you're going to be setting up yourself for a better time when this is all over. So get organized and put things in order.
Love that. And by the way, I am taking notes.
Okay.
So if you see me writing, it's because, and I'll give a plug to Dado, like my favorite pen in the world. We actually have the same kind of pens now.
I love pens.
I'm taking notes, and I love that, taking control. That's probably, and I don't want to divert the conversation, but you remember when this all first started and everybody went out and bought toilet paper and paper towels off the shelves? It's like,
yes.
I feel like they did that because that's the only thing they could control at the time. It's like, okay, I'll just go buy all of the toilet paper that I can.
Exactly.
I mean, is there any truth? Do you think that's true? I've heard that. I've heard people talking about that. Is that why people react? Because I'm always fascinated with the way the mind works. So and these are great tools, because we if we don't pay attention to it, the mind makes us do things by itself.
Right. But I think that so to me, and I'm not like a psychoanalyst, but when I look at that, like buying toilet paper and buying paper products, and which was really like a really odd segment. It wasn't like milk and eggs. It was like paper products. I feel like sometimes people just want to do something, and when they're doing something, they think they're having some influence or control over their lives.
Right.
But maybe it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, right? Because you're doing something, but is it really something that, is going to help your business, is going to help your family in the long run? So it's being intentional about what you're doing with the activity, I think is really the key thing. And, and one of the things that I always talk, and you probably have heard me say this about, being intentional, and the way you are intentional is by being proactive and by having a plan, right? So, thinking things through down the line, and many business people do this as part of their business planning. But us as individuals being proactive and having a plan about what am I going to do with this day that maybe is not as full as it used to be. Am I going to schedule my time even though I don't have a boss or somebody standing over me saying you have to schedule this, that, or the other thing, or am I just going to let the day take control? And then I feel fearful at the end of the day because I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get done today? Well, I wasn't intentional. I didn't plan. So I would encourage you to be proactive and to plan.
Interesting.
So I'll take a breath so that you can, ask questions, and please feel free to interrupt me if you.
Yeah, this is great. Like, so, one of the things that comes up in my mind when I hear this, because this is great advice, changing your perspective, getting organized, being intentional, controlling your day, all that's important. Now, let's say the day beats you up and it just keeps whacking you down. And that's what's happening a lot now, right? Like we start the day and I've got things that I do to kind of put myself in a good mindset in the beginning of the day. But then, you get a phone call and it's bad news, whether somebody who was in the hospital with this, or, you heard somebody passed away, or you heard, a client cuts their service with you because they're affected by it. And it just whacks you like you just got hit with a baseball bat. How do you fight through that in these weird times? I mean, it's even harder now, right?
Yeah, I agree. There's some really, really hard stuff happening to us and around us. As I said earlier, that, people getting sick, or it's really impacting our livelihood, which has a lot of, it brings on fear. I mean, I think that, you're going to have those days, right? And the beauty is that there is another day. The sun is going to rise tomorrow, and this is going to pass, and there's going to be loss, and just so be kind to yourself. It's okay, no matter how tough you are, no matter how high you are in your company, it's okay to say, you know what, this was a really rough day, and tomorrow I will try again. So, one of the things that I've been reading a lot about is that people in this anxiety are just becoming, it just brings out things in us, right? It brings out anger, and it brings out, right? It can bring out things from our past. So it's time to, be kind to yourself, let that be your guiding principle when you're feeling out of sorts. Be kind to yourself, be kind to those around you, because everybody is going through something, and just recalibrate, the next day to start again.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I don't want to sidetrack you. You went through a couple. Do you have more to this, or were those the points?
I would say that's the bucket for taking control of your fear. And the last thing I would say is, whatever dog you feed is going to win. So right. whatever you're putting into your mind, into your spirit, it's what's going to come out. So I would say that this is all the time. I encourage people to develop a practice of quiet time. Start your day with 10 minutes of quiet time, of setting intentions. If you're religious, if you're a faith-filled person, that's great, but you don't have to be. You can just wake up and say, I'm grateful that I'm awake today. I am grateful that I have these, 1, 2, 3 things that I have to do today. It's called a gratitude journal. So it's even if you commit to identifying 3 things, and that could be at the end of your worst day, right? It could be also, right before you go to bed. Today, a lot of bad things happen, but man, you know what? this happened and this is why I was positive. You know, the second thing happened, and like yesterday, I had the president of my fitness center call me just to say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And like that, and I was so grateful for that at the end of the day. That was one of the things I counted, right? Somebody out there who doesn't really know me that well called me to say, hey, Riza, how are you doing? How is your family? So there's always things that we can be grateful for, and that's going to buoy you, and it's going to propel you to the next thing.
I love that. I just pulled my journal out. Like somebody gave this to me once. It's called the 5-minute journal. I don't even know where I got it. But somebody gave it to me at one point, and I did it for like 3 days, and then I stopped doing it. It's filled with like some cool stuff. I'm going to start doing it again, and that's interesting because going back to the memory of doing that, when I did that and I started writing down what I was grateful for at the end of each day, even if I had it's easy to come up with what you're grateful for when good things happen.
Exactly.
But when it's a terrible day and you sit down and think about what you're grateful for, you start really realizing how much you've got and how good things are, even though they feel like they're so bad, or how worse they could be. You know what I mean? It really makes you think, oh man, I should be grateful for that. And sometimes it's just, I'm grateful. I heard my daughter is a college student, and she's a violinist, and she's in the teaching program, and she's always been shy about playing in front of us and doing things in front of us. So she doesn't practice. We don't hear her play a lot. And now we're starting to, I'm whispering so she doesn't hear me. Like I'm talking low, because we can hear her in the house. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. It's like a amazing time where I'm just blown away with what I'm seeing. Right. Like, and I wouldn't have that if this all didn't happen. So
yeah,
it's very interesting.
It's that silver lining. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be your journal tonight, right?
Yeah, I'm going to
Your
start doing
gratitude
it.
journal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And you don't need to go buy a 5-minute journal. I mean, somebody gave it to me. I've done this in the past. I used to be very disciplined with it years ago, and I got out of it. Like, anything. I did on a pad. Why not?
Yeah, and not to beat a dead horse, but I remember one time when I first started doing this, and the way I was taught to do it was you had to pick 3 things and you had to be very specific. So, it's very easy for us to say, well, I'm grateful for my family. Yes.
Right.
But it's to really, because it's forcing yourself to be intentional with your thoughts and to sort of, hone in on something very small, especially something that maybe isn't a bad situation. I remember being in this meeting it had been just a crap of a day, and this meeting had gone just horribly wrong, and it was screaming and yelling and all that. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I even come up with anything to be grateful for today,
Right.
And so I just kind of replayed that meeting, and then I observed in my head just a connection that I had made with somebody in that meeting. And to me, so that was the gratitude moment, was that one little thing that I connected with Mike, in the midst of all this, what seemed like a terrible meeting, terrible outcome, and very contentious. And I was grateful that I had connected with that one person in that moment. So it's really forcing you to really look at the good.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so important. And when that stuff gets flowing, I have my best ideas. I mean, I do, and the folks who are listening to this are different. We have all kinds of different folks listening. We have very technical folks who are not out there doing marketing and, writing like I do. That's what I do. I love writing, and every day I write. I have for years. And even if I don't publish it, I write something every single day. And the moments when I'm forcing myself through the through the pain, right? When I'm forcing myself to do that through pain, it never comes out good. But when I'm in a great mindset, the better the mindset, the more it just flows. And then all these ideas, sometimes it's like the synapses go, right? Like, and I was listening to somebody today, I get on the treadmill and I listen to books on tape. I don't remember what I was listening to because I bounce around, but the speaker was talking about how when we're kids, you go to school and you learn how to memorize things, right? Like, and then when you get into college in those later years, you learn how to do it in a different way, and then also be analytical, to look at those things analytically. But what they never really teach you is, or at least when I went to school, is creativity, how to fire off the creativity. And that's where, that kind of stuff, listening, reading, putting myself, in a good frame of mind, fires off creativity. And magic happens when you're creative. You think of new ways to move your business forward. To, for me, writing, just all the ideas just flow, so
Yeah.
positivity is the mother of creativity, or the father of creativity. All right. So did I take you off track? Because this is great stuff. I love talking about this. That's
great. So I think, that kind of covers the taking control of your fear. We can talk about how to lead with confidence if you'd like to next.
Absolutely.
And you just talked about marketing and creativity, and gosh, do we not need that today, right? Because our world has been shaken. It's upside down, and nothing that we were doing before, the rules don't apply. So we're all trying to figure out how to lead our teams, how to lead our families, how to lead, our companies with confidence, because there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, I've fallen and I can't get up, and
right.
more than ever, they need us to lead with confidence. So the first thing that comes to my mind is messaging, right? Communications. And I always taught my kids to approach communications in a proactive manner, and to not avoid communications, and to not be afraid of, they used to think confrontation was a bad thing, but I would always say, when you proactively communicate, you have all the power. You can deliver the message. You're showing leadership. You're showing that you're not afraid. You're showing, even if you are a little afraid on the inside, you're showing that you've got this. And that leads other people to want to be with you, to engage with you, to do business with you, right? Because you come at it from a place of, I am here and I am going to guide you. Right. And so communicating now is critical. How are you communicating with your clients and with your employees?
Right.
And, it's critical. Like for me, for my business, I just have been reaching out to them and saying, hey, I know you're going through some hard things. I know that you're furloughing people. I know that perhaps you're, all these things are going on. Know that I am here. I am here for you to bounce. And I'm not selling them anything. I'm just telling them I am here. So communicating with them and letting them know that I understand and that I'm here. So that's one way of communicating, right? Another way of communicating is if you have a website, what does your website look like now? Is it tone deaf to what's happening? I went through my website and started to things that seemed just like they didn't apply now. Maybe they were just a little bit more superficial than the seriousness of the situation now. And I tweaked it. I tweaked it to make sure that I was being sensitive, that the people whose eyes are on it may be in real, having a different need right now than how am I going to plan for my best life, And so, your employees need to hear from you. They need to hear that, they need to hear the truth, right? I've also always promote being transparent. So they need to hear the truth of how your business is going, right? They need to hear what you need them to do.
Yeah.
So have you sat down and said, in order for us to keep our doors open, we need to, do X amount of revenue. And in order for that to happen, John, you need to sell, or you need to do this much, and Mary, you need to do this much, you know, and kind of gamifying the whole selling of your service, you know, in that manner. And, you know, I'll say that there's still a lot of people, not everybody has lost their job. Not everybody is in financial strait. There are still people that planned and their businesses are going to be okay. And so those people are still there for you, right? So it's not taking advantage of people. It's being very sensitive and very, you know, compassionate as you do this, but there's still opportunity there. But you have to message that. You have to get that to your clients, to your employees, et cetera. And, you know, when you're doing this, it shows that you're competent. And guess what? It brings up the confidence of everyone else. You know, even if your client can't buy a service from you right now, just knowing that Mike is calling them and Mike is in communications with them, it just makes you feel like he's there, you know. Me reaching out to my clients, they know I'm here. So it gives you that confidence that you're guiding and you're leading in an effective manner.
Yeah, it's great. And you're just backing up something that we've been talking about for the past couple of what feels like months, but it's only been days. Is this? I just saw a meme. Not to. Somebody said it's like the 97th day of March.
Yes,
feels like that. So you know, something we immediately started talking about is you know, be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Be a leader in your community, and leading with confidence is really important. These folks who we serve, the MSPs who are listening to this, you know, you guys and gals who run these important businesses are in a very essential field. You know, without the IT infrastructure in place and strong, these businesses fall apart. So your clients, you know, they need to hear from you, and they need to know that they can count on you. So we've been telling folks, you know, just do more. Number one, reach out to them, like you had said,
yes,
and create more content. You know, I've been doing marketing for a long time, and marketing is just communications. You know, there's been a little bit of talk about, well, stop your marketing now. You know, stop marketing because now's not the time. Well, you know, I don't need to stop marketing because I always market the same way. I approach it from an education first, not a look at us, we're great, buy our stuff. I'm here to educate people. That's a longer play when it comes to marketing. So I'm just taking what I'm doing, I'm turning it up, I'm turning the dial more, because I need to be out there and showing my audience that I'm here for them, and that I'm a leader, and MSPs need to do the same thing. You need to lead, and the folks who do that are going to be the folks that win in 3 months when the economy goes back to normal, because you will have made an impact. So, and if you have any advice on that, on how to do that, I'm all ears, because that's important.
It's time for, I mean, there's the obvious of communicating, right? And there's the obvious of making sure that your tone is appropriate, right?
Yeah, that's great advice.
But people still need the services. And so what you can start as you're developing content is thinking about what do they need that they don't know they need. So often, like, we don't know what we need.
Right.
Because we're not focused there, right? We're doing our thing. We're managing the service. We're doing all those things. And so to have someone that's saying, you know, first you think about it with your team, you know, what are the services that your clients are going to need in 30 days, in 60 days, in 90 days, right? As we come out of this. And this goes for the managed service partners as well, right? They can be doing this. Out of the gate, those projects are not going to be the day one thing that their clients are going to need, but there's going to be services that they're going to need, because there's going to be a pent up demand, right? Things that you were working on and was dropped, you know, projects are things that you knew you had to do before the end of the year. And then when this all goes away, you're going to need to return to that. So start thinking about what your 30-day plan is, what your 60-day plan, what your 90-day plan. So to Mike, I would say, what's your 30-day, you know, communication plan, marketing plan, you know, And the same for your MSPs.
Awesome. Okay, so I know we're going to talk about, and I don't want to jump ahead if you're not done talking about leading with confidence, but I know we're going to talk about investing in your future work. So I'm, if I don't want to keep asking, because I could ask you questions about this stuff all day, so I don't want to take you off track here.
Yeah. I think that investing in your future work, we sort of talked about it a little bit under leading with confidence because they kind of, are hand in glove. And that is, you know, there's no time. Again, we talked about having time, and there's this time now that we have. Think about your business. Maybe the business plan that you had created last year, it doesn't work anymore. So now you do need a 30-day business plan, and you need, what's your 60 and 90 day, and is your end of the year plan going to look the same? So this is a time to do that. Creating a messaging plan that goes along with what you want to do. Creating a cash flow plan, right? Like, do you know what you need to get through this season? Do you know what you're going to need in, 30 days? I even feel like that's a long time under these new,
Right.
Next
Who knows?
week,
Yeah. I mean, who knows what's gonna, we're now in lockdown, right? For I guess 30 days, right? From
right.
Today's April 1st as we're recording this, and it's going to be a month. And who knows what's going to happen day to day, let alone 30 days.
Exactly. Yeah. So, creating those plans is huge. Another thing that I would recommend is education. Right now, there's a plethora of companies that are offering free education. So to invest in your future work, what education have you been putting off that you can take now? What certification have you been putting off that you can take now? What new thing do you see coming down the pike and you haven't had the time to learn about it? You haven't had the time to set up a sandbox for it. You haven't had the time, and now you might have that time. So there's a lot of education that you can get. What service can you create? Think about what you do and think about what you can do in the future that is a spin-off service of that. Something you've been thinking about and just, again, hadn't fully baked because you haven't had the idea, the time, but now you have the time. How can you pivot your business offering? I think of I think of restaurants and how they've had to change their business model, right? You can't go into a restaurant and sit down and look at a menu of 15, 20 items and choose, right? So what are they doing? And they can't do that with a smaller staff.
Right.
So some of them, the smarter ones, have gone and they've said, okay, we're going to do 2 family meals a night. You choose A or B. And that economy for them is that they're only, cooking 2 different things. They're not cooking or having ingredients for all that. So how can you apply that model to your business? Kind of taking something that you're doing and just tweaking it to provide a service.
Yeah, I love that. That's and I mean, depending on where folks are who are listening, if you're break fix, this is the time you should be definitely thinking about, how do I now officially transition over to managed services? And yeah, I think everyone has a point where they're trying to push towards the new, because we're never done, right? We're always trying to learn more and move our businesses, move the needle more. If you don't have your clients in the cloud, and you're not worried, BCDR now is, I mean, we're going to talk about that next week a bit. It's becoming kind of obvious now that there's, I think there's going to be a big shift back towards that. Cloud was kind of a big thing years ago. And the founder of our company had experienced the importance of moving folks to the cloud when Hurricane Sandy hit. we're in Connecticut, he's in New Jersey. So we got hit pretty hard with Hurricane Sandy. They got hit bad. And he's like, he had clients who didn't have power, couldn't even get on, the internet. All they were concerned about was generators at that point. And he slowly, methodically started shifting to be a cloud provider. And, that was a shift from that moment, that disaster that happened. So I think, very, very interesting. Good point. Taking you off track again.
That's okay. No, it's good. We spur each other to other thoughts. So, investing in your future requires that you control your fear. It requires that you lead with confidence, right? It requires that you take the time to, to work on your business, to work on yourself, to build plans, right? Cash flow, business plan, messaging plan, and to take advantage of the time that you have to see if there's training, if there's services, et cetera. So that's sort of my spiel there. And
that's great. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. And before we call it a day from our live, not live,
pseudo live,
our pseudo live. It's live right now. We're live, but nobody else can see us. But how can people find you in the World Wide Web?
Okay, yeah. So I am in Connecticut, but it's a virtual world as we can see now.
Well, you've always been virtual. I mean,
I've also been virtual. Yeah. Yes. My website is lifeonlifecoaching.com, and that is the easiest way to get a hold of me. And go on there, send me a message, and we will talk.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Raiza, thank you so much. And thank you if you're still watching this with us, thanks for sticking with us and watching this. And if you were trying to watch live, apologize for that. But this was great stuff. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.